careful for spoilers for One Piece, chapter 1158. Hi everyone, it's Jackal. I like talking about art that I find interesting and things in that art that compels my brain. And I've been a long time One Piece fan, been current for a while now, and the latest chapter just dropped yesterday. At least the leaks or whatever. And I've got to say, this journey that we've been having, this flashback involving Rocks and who he is as a person, has been quite interesting. And I've been watching a lot of One Piece commentators and seeing a lot of scuttlebutt about who Rocks is he possessing Blackbeard, all those things. And I started getting this feeling early on in the previous chapters, but it's cemented after this one. I do not think that whatever is going on with Blackbeard, and again, I could be wrong because this flashback has not been resolved, but I just do not think that whatever is going on with Blackbeard is how or what Rocks wanted. Maybe he is possessing his son. Something went wrong. Maybe his soul was doing reversey before it possessed him, and something went wrong. But Rocks is evidently not this chaotically evil man that we have been told about. And what this flashback is telling me is your legacy, if you die with no one remembering you the way Rocks has, it is up to everyone else's interpretation of you. Everyone else gets to make that story. Memories get foggy. Because the Rocks that I'm seeing, he is more Luffy than Eustace, if that makes sense. If you're a One Piece fan, that makes perfect sense. He is not out here crucifying any innocent villagers. He's not out here sowing misery and woe in innocent towns. He's attacked the government and government-affiliated things and other pirates and corrupt individuals. So far, he has not seemed to hurt a single innocent person. Even the whole he hit Loki thing. Luffy did the same thing to Common. And Loki was going to try to attack them because he thought himself superior. But everything that I have seen from this character, he is just wildly misunderstood. He is more in common with Roger and Whitebeard and Odin and Luffy than anything that we've been told prior to these flashbacks would have led us believe. And I've been seeing people, when they talk about him, like, Rocks represents the chaos, and Shanks and Roger represents piracy, but with order. Like, I think you're all wrong. And the reason I think you all wrong is because he has not done anything chaotic or extreme at all in the story so far. In this flashback, he has not done anything. Even the one big act of piracy we see him commit, which is him robbing some cruise ship, or I forget what it was, of its riches. It was some charity ship or something like that. Even then, that was a cover. That was a front. Those funds were being diverted to ill means. It was a lie. It was a scam. And it wasn't like Zebek went in to steal from this place not knowing that, and it just so happens he did a right thing by accident. No, they were fully aware that this was a scam, that this was ultimately not benefiting anyone that they were saying it was going to. Even the clash he has with Harold. the entire time, Rox is trying to appeal to the better nature of this man that he considers a friend. Why would he respect a guy who wants good in the world? Why would he respect a person that wants to ultimately be a positive force in the world if all he wants is chaos and evil and pain? In fact, that's never what he advocates for. Whenever he asks Harold to join him, he's just saying, hey, the government that we have right now is wrong. Now, to Harold's credit, Sebek is very bad at explaining his plan. In fact, he downright seems to refuse to explain all of the nuances of his plan, like everything he intends on doing. He kind of refuses to explain, or he doesn't explain. And so, his biggest crime isn't being this evil pirate, at least again so far. His biggest crime is that, and the reason for his failure, is that no one believes in him. Harold says it in this chapter. We cannot win. I am a king. I cannot risk the lives and future of my entire race helping you chase something that is ultimately doomed to fail. The other Rox pirates do not believe in him. They're just in it for the potential score. Another misconception that we have been force-fed throughout the entire narrative up until now is that Rox is this brutal captain who there was no room to debate him or question him or say anything. And once you were on his crew, that was it. And he went after people because they were strong, and then they were bound to him. No. He started off that way, and it still wasn't brutal. He did the Davy back fights. But then when it came down to actually mobilize his forces, when he had satisfied with his crew, he told them, and he meant it, if you don't believe in what I'm saying, if you don't believe that we can take down the government, if you don't believe in what I'm doing, you can leave. I don't need that. But the ultimate indictment against this whole idea that he's this evil, malevolent force, at least right now, is the fact that after his clash with Harold, what does he not do? He does not send the crew after the treasure. He leaves Elbaf alone. Every other giant on Elbaf, Dorian Bargy, are already gone. Fighting forever. There's no other feasible threats on this island. If Rox and his whole crew jumped Harold, he would be taken down. And they could steal the treasure, which he has said himself he needs. And this is after this man who he considered his friend, who he himself denied himself from betraying, has betrayed him. And yet, the thing he needs, the object that will help pull his plan together, is right there on the island, and he does not go after it. He just says, fine, I didn't want you on my team anyway. I'm never going to invite you to my team again. Because he's hurt. It makes so much sense, and we were all too blind to see it. Why would Whitebeard agree to join a captain who was out here hurting innocent people? That just doesn't make sense for his character, and we all wrote it off as, well, Whitebeard is a pirate. But Whitebeard is probably one of the least piratey pirates in the story, both past and future, because outside of the, didn't do anything. There really is, almost no shots of him doing anything that isn't him clashing with people like Roger and fellow strong people. But he's not robbing anyone or anything, and then everything he gets, every piece of treasure, all of his cuts that he gets from the exploits that he does allow himself to be a part of, go directly to his home. He doesn't enrich himself at all. So why would a man like that agree to follow Rox if all he was this brutal person that was going around destroying people's lives? It's because he's not doing that. He is not those things. And I think that everyone, because no one talks about him, because his chapter in history has effectively been erased, has misconstrued who he was. Now, again, the flashback has not concluded. This could all be wiped away in one chapter. In one chapter, we could find out that, him hashing it out with Harold was too much for him, and it turned him cold, and he went completely insane. But I don't think that's going to happen. I do not think that's going to happen. Rox is a man that Luffy would have hung out with. The difference between Rox and Roger isn't even an ideal. It's the fact that what Roger is doing directly gets in his way. As another strong pirate, it's a case. It's like when Whitebeard ran into Odin for the first time, and Odin asked to join the crew, and he said no, because you're strong, and strong personalities butt heads. You cannot be my subordinate. You can't make yourself into that. And that's what fucking Roger and Zebek are. Two huge personalities. Why then do they fight at God Valley? We don't know. We just don't have the answers. But it's starting to seem more and more evident that Rox himself is not this evil person bereft of all morality. Purely, he's not even chaotic. I've seen some people calling him chaotic. No, he has a clear, laid out plan, and everything he's done from the inception of Hachinosu to now has been a part of making that plan come to fruition. I think Blackbeard is pulling a Hody Jones. What do I mean by that? Hody Jones, if you don't know or didn't, care about the Fishman Island arc, is a guy who claims to care about the future of the Fishmen. But later on in the arc, he admits that he was never a slave like the rest of the Fishmen. He has never even really met or interacted with humans. He is only doing this based off hearsay and what he thinks. And I think that's what Blackbeard's doing. Another thing. Rox was in love, which is not a thing that most One Piece men are even capable of. But Rox was happy for his new wife and their soon-to-be child. I think we're sitting here wondering about all this possession and all this other stuff, and I think the answer is going to be a lot more simple than that. Because something happened to Rox's mom, and I think the answer is staring us. I mean, not Rox's mom, Blackbeard's mom. And I think the answer is staring us all directly in the face. When Roger was captured and executed, his entire line was demolished. Or attempted to be. Every woman suspected of carrying his child was killed. And it doesn't seem like Rox did that much sleeping around. He had one. And maybe she delivered her baby and things before she was taken out. But I think regardless, she was taken out by the government on suspicion of holding Rox's child. And I think that Blackbeard, if he is possessed by anything, he has been possessed by some dark animating specter, the same thing that Emu is made out of or whatever, that fed off of his loneliness and sadness and anger and rage. And he is out for revenge for his father. His ship is called the Saber of Zebek. His dad was not self-indulgent like that. Another thing I saw, not to call out Mr. Morge at all, but I saw a video on him when he was talking about potentially what could be going on with Blackbeard, and one of the big ideas was that the possession is 3 layers deep because of Blackbeard's 3 soul theory, and it's Davy Jones, Zebek, and then Blackbeard's the based or whatever. And it's a fun, interesting theory, but one thing that just doesn't check out or make any sense is that one statement that Morge makes is just flat out wrong. He says that the common thing between all three of the people, Davy Jones, Zebek, and Blackbeard, could potentially be that none of them want their legacies to pass on. None of them want to give up and move for the next generation. But that's just not true. When Zebek meets Eam for the first time, and he says, "I will be back," he later on goes to talk to Harold about everything. And what does he say? He says, "Even if it isn't me, there is no such thing as a power that lasts forever. Someone will do it." So he's completely okay with the idea that someone is going to take over. The big difference between him and Roger is maybe if you want to give him anything that's kind of close to that theory, I think maybe Rox wanted whoever it was to be directly related to him. Maybe, because he did not go on to inspire anyone. He wasn't publicly executed as far as we know. He didn't go on to try to prop up the next generation of pirates. I have a sneaking suspicion that if Zebek would have gotten what he wanted, piracy would be over. I don't think those guys would be allowed to exist. I think Pirate Island and everything else is all a ruse, because this is a guy that seemingly came out of nowhere, is a prodigious fighter, is highly charismatic, has all this knowledge, and then he becomes a pirate, and then I think we are missing a huge chunk of who he is and why he is. And the only thing we know is that he looked up to and was a devout believer in Davy Jones, but we don't know anything about Davy Jones at all. Except that he liked games, maybe. And I think that if Rox would have won and would have managed to defeat Emu and dismantle the world government, I think that I think piracy would be over. I think the world would be run by a completely new power structure with him at the top. That's one thing for sure. He would have put himself in charge to lead whatever this new world would have been. But I do not think pirates were going to be a part of it. Why don't I think that? Is because Harold, Whitebeard, those kind of people that he made sure were at his side would not agree to something like that. They would not agree to this new world where all they do is destroy people. And all it is misery for everyone who isn't the strongest there is. There's no way. And he knew that his friend Harold would not agree or like anything like that. And he never tried to convince him that weaker humans weren't worth anything. He never tried to convince him of any of those things. And I just find it weird that so many of us are putting him in this box right now of just evil. I don't think it's the case. It's not true so far as we can tell it. And that's my theory. I think we're gonna find out that Blackbeard is not possessed, in fact, by his father. And if he is possessed by Rocks, it's gonna be that his soul, his ideals, have been extracted from him and corrupted because of all the time that's passed, or something like that. But there is no course where he is just evil. I just don't believe that. And right now, with all the evidence we have, I'm staking my claim in that. It also just doesn't make sense that when I think about the way that he's spoken about by the other pirates, Whitebeard never called him evil or cruel or whatever. He just said that there was no synergy in the crew that he was on last, and that strong personalities can't work together. He never condemned his old captain. Rayleigh has never brought him up. Scopper, right now, has not said anything, even though he knows that Loki worships the man. He has not said anything about, Loki, you're worshiping an evil guy, or anything like that. So I think there's a lot of just misunderstanding, and there's just no way that a person like that can be so unbelievably cruel and evil, but he doesn't have the heart to beat his friend after his friend betrayed him. A person the way that he's been described to us by the government would have been able to kill Harold in cold blood without a second thought after he saw that Harold was not on his side. Or he would have continued to beat up on Loki, which he stopped the minute he realized, oh no, that's my friend's son. He cares about him. Even though I think he's an annoying whelp, as long as he doesn't attack me again, it's fine. But that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. There's probably going to be some gameplay footage or something from something else while I talk over it. And I'm going to try to make more of these. I know I keep saying that, but I'm going to try to make more of these. Not specifically on One Piece, but just anything. And subscribe and like for more. And I will see you next time. Man, it's going to be wild.